Today we're interviewing Phil Keane. Phil Kean Design Group is a nationally awarded design and build architecture firm. Nominated Best of Orlando, #1 home builder by Orlando Magazine. Nominated Best Home Builder, Best of Winter Park 3 years in a row by Winter Park, Florida Chamber of Commerce. Best of House Design Award by House.com, and winning the Platinum and Gold Awards from the National Association of Home Builders Best in American Living Awards. Today we're going to be talking to Phil to get his insight into the exclusive signature Phil Kean Design Group process.
I wanted to start with basically, how you got started in the business, and how did you begin the business in Winter Park? Amy tells me that you started it literally on your kitchen table in Winter Park. So if we could start from the beginning there, that would be amazing.
My dad was a builder, so I grew up around it. So it was always like a passion. And then when I started the business, it was really one house at a time, and I would design it, and then I would build it, and it was just me. And I worked at my kitchen table. It was really pre-CAD. I wasn't even doing CAD in the beginning stages. I started CAD. I bought a book and downloaded the computer-aided drafting for dummies. I bought a book over at one of the bookstores and taught myself CAD. And then so my first year I did essentially one spec house, and then the next year I did 2 spec houses, and then the next year I did 3 houses, and I hired my first person, and then each year I hired another person, and then I outgrew my kitchen with the second person, and we moved into a small office in Winter Park. It was really very small, and then we outgrew that space and grew to a bigger space, and all these years later, here we are.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, and what's interesting is, when we did our first modern home, I designed it almost 20 years ago, and it's on Via Tuscany, and it got a lot of recognition. A lot of people really loved that house, and it was I designed it for myself, and at the time everybody's doing the Spanish Mediterraneans, and I remember one of a realtor friend of mine who told me I was crazy to do a modern house, that they never sell, they're hard to sell, that I'll lose my shirt, and it really did change my career. So, you kind of have to trust your gut, I guess. The universe kind of took care of me, and I made some good decisions, and people really liked my modern aesthetic. It was warm. It used a lot of natural materials. It was more of a mid-century kind of modern than it was like the Miami Vice modern. It was,
right.
And it's just grown from there. It got picked up by one of the big design magazines. I don't even know. It was featured in Florida Architecture, which was, to me at the time, it was a giant magazine. It came out twice a year, and it was really they're no longer around, but it was really an honor to be picked up in that magazine. And then Florida Design also featured. And even today, people still pull up that house and say, I really like this house. I want a version of this for my lot or for me. And so, almost 20 years later, people are still appreciating that first house I did, which is kind of cool. Here in Winter Park.
It's amazing. I think, one of the things that, we were talking about before is, the design sort of risks that you took. And I think that you still continue to take in terms of the boundaries and the design aesthetic that you are chasing and that that's so beautiful and really, I wonder, is it something that, when you were designing that first sort of that modern look, I mean, did you feel sort of ostracized at all by the by the architecture review, board potentially, or, different people who were, in the neighborhood, watching that go up as it was going up? Did it, was it sort of a, were people sort of skeptical until they saw it come to life? Or I guess, what was what was that process like going through that?
Well, most people didn't like it until it was finished. And then when it was finished, I opened it up for a parade of homes to the neighborhood, and people came through and walked it and discovered how unusual the house was. It's just it sort of took. It was I was inspired by different mid-century architects, so I sort of took some liberties and kind of like thought about, if they were alive, how would they approach this lot? And so I kind of approached it that way. And there was a big fish tank in the middle, and the house sort of pinwheeled around the fish tank. And then there was these little moments where the house pinwheeled. So, and then I brought that little pinwheel idea out to the pool. So the pool sort of pinwheeled around the spa and sort of played with the positive and negative spaces and how they reacted to each other. And I think it really turned out well. So, so from that, people started to, a couple architects lived in the neighborhood, and they really appreciated it, and they liked that it was outside of the box, and probably that it wasn't Spanish Mediterranean. People that were in the, people that were in the industry, but I don't know. I mean, I did get some criticism. There were people that ran home, the HOAs and they really. They didn't understand me. I tried to get on the historic board of the Winter Park, and I kind of got voted out. Later down the road, I got voted in, but there was a whole debate on whether somebody that was doing modern could understand history, and it was sort of like, don't you understand that you have to understand history to appreciate modern? So it was really an interesting. Kind of, because it's all about proportions and scale, and modern is a lot less forgiving than a traditional home. I mean, that's why I think Spanish was so popular, because you could throw an arch and red tile roof on it and you became Spanish. There wasn't a lot of thought about it. So even today, if you do a brick home with a shingle roof, it's traditional. Well, what does that mean, traditional? So but when you're doing modern and you get the scale wrong, it's really an ugly building. And there's a lot of ugly moderns out there right now, because people just don't understand. It's not a flat roof that makes a house modern. We do a lot of modern houses that have pitched roofs, So
I've seen them. I mean, that's one of the things in your portfolio that strikes me as sort of unique from, I guess the crowd that wants to sort of aspire to the design that you do, is that you're 100% spot on. Is that you just get these sort of flat roofs, just a lot of glass everywhere, a lot of concrete, but there's not this cohesive. I think you've built this amazing sort of aesthetic where you've got this, exactly like you said, you've got this very warm and modern. When I look at your homes, the thing that comes to my mind is that looks warm. It looks inviting, and I think that, to me personally, and look, I'm not, by no means am I a connoisseur of high level design, but I guess for me as a layman, when I look from the outside in to a lot of modern, quote unquote modern design homes today, it's about one step away from a sort of a factory. It's a factory with a sofa in it, kind of. It's so industrial that they've lost that human touch. They've lost the warmth aspect of it, and I think you've done an amazing job at that. And I think the roofs and the way that you've designed that as well, where you do have the pitch and you've got the angles letting in the light, it's absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Well, I do believe in a lot of that indoor-outdoor kind of connection with glass, and so I like to use materials that can go inside and outside, and kind of be cohesive with that. That's sort of just something I've always appreciated. I think it's important that people light creates a good balance and well-being for people, and I try to capture as much light as I can. But indoor outdoor is really a key design feature for me. Amy wanted me to mention somewhere along the way that we were the best designer architect in Winter Park for the last 3 years. I don't know if that's important or not, but I would say
it is.
Yeah. I would say that that's nice in the sense that my neighbors appreciate what we do, and they whether they hire us to build, they appreciate what we do or design. A lot of times I'll have people, they'll say, one day I'll have a Phil Keane house, kind of that, which is such a compliment, such a nice thing for people to say. And, I kind of look at every house as, what's the best that this house can be, and I call it my award-winning concept. It's sort of like, I want every house that ever comes out of here, out of our studio, to be award-winning, whether it's an expensive home or a tiny little home. There needs to be something that makes this worth winning an award. And we won an award several years back. It was the Best in American Living Award put on by the National Association of Home Builders. And there were these big homes in the competition, and ours was like a 4,800 square foot home, and we won the grand award. And one of the judges came up to me and told me that it was about the quality of the spaces and what I did with it that made us win over these obviously much more expensive homes and much bigger homes that were in the competition. And the comment was, it was just so livable, all the people could just see being there. So I thought that was one of my highlights. Another thing that was really something that I'm proud of too is that the the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, awarded us the Builder of the Year. Now, that always goes to commercial. It's commercial based. It's the big ivory towers and the the engineering marvels that win those are the people that build those structures and design those structures are the ones that always win these awards. So it's very interesting that we won as a residential architect. So I feel like that was a big honor, something I'm very proud of. So
as well, you should be. I mean, that's a phenomenal. You're 100% right. I mean, that those awards always tend to go to these very interestingly shaped or abstract or very difficult to solve construction type problem. Commercial spaces, and I think that's that says so much. I mean, I believe there's over 20,000 architects coast to coast right now, plus. At least
Wow.
Last time I checked AIA, that's what it was. It's a huge number. I mean, that's, there's so much talent in that pool. And, so I first of all, just apart from the interview, I want to congratulate you for that. That is absolutely inspiring to hear that.
This was for Florida and the Caribbean. This was for, where we are. It wasn't a national award, although the winners of the locals get put in with the national awards. But that was it's still an honor. It's sort of like because
absolutely, it's huge.
All the work going on in Florida and Bahamas and the Southeast. It's pretty exciting. That was a big honor for me.
Very much. Very much. I want to ask you just, along those topics, if you don't mind me asking. I think what we've been so impressed with, I think, is as I'm sure many others have been as well, is the proportion that you have in your design. It flows and it looks. It's so easy to just stare at and look at. You kind of can get lost into it. Is there a sort of a process you can share or sort of the approach that you take to the amazing proportion that you use in your design?
Well, it's they call it the golden rectangle, or I think it was Vitruvius that did it. I think that's where he sort of took that proportion. I probably have his book floating around here, but he wrote a book on proportion, and that was one of the books I had to study in college. And there is a ratio between height to width to all of that that's comfortable, that feels good. And the key is that that's probably where you want to sort of be hanging out. Now, if you want to play with those, that's when it becomes, that's where the drama starts to happen. So you might push the envelope a little bit from that sort of golden rectangle proportion. But I'd say that there is a lot of people want these really tall ceilings, and they're fine. And I like tall ceilings, but I don't like them everywhere. I like to think about what that room's purpose is, and what's the right height for that room. Somebody that has a huge art collection is going to need a different kind of height than where you watch TV. Those are just different scaled spaces. And you don't want to feel uncomfortable. I remember watching one of those HGTV programs, and there was this bathroom that was so tall. I was thinking I would not feel comfortable in that bathroom. Felt like you were in a silo. It was like, I don't know. But so anyways, I think there's a scale to every space, and it really does revolve around the human being and what the purpose of that room is. So.
Yeah, I think that is, that's amazing that you bring that up, because that's sort of where I was kind of headed into that as well. Is that, you've got some of these rooms, and I think, even if we look towards the way that your indoor outdoor connects, it's so flawless versus, I think, having a very low ceiling that just sort of, boom, you pop and you're outside. I think the way that you have that, that indoor outdoor flow towards your proportion. But honestly, again, even taking a look at, I was looking at several of your homes here to kind of prepare for the interview today, and I was very impressed with exactly what you said. Is that it's very easy to see yourself living in that space. It doesn't feel, even sometimes if you're out traveling, you go to these hotels, and some of these hotels, the way that they're designed, they try to sort of overdo everything and feel like you're getting lost in the, like you said, you go in the bathroom, you feel like it's a silo, or you go into the, the bedroom and it's way too low. And so there, there is that, as you said, that golden ratio. What has been, one of the larger challenges that you've had to overcome, or the larger problems you've had to overcome in a construction project, from a design standpoint, or actually from the implementation phase of actually, building that?
Challenges of construction. I think the biggest challenge is education, because a lot of people, I've designed a lot of homes over the years for builders of their personal homes. And I generally will tell them that my designs will be one of the hardest designs to build. And so I spend a lot of time educating the team on how things are supposed to look and how things are supposed to go together. And, but, after all these years, my electrician puts up a string and makes sure all the lights are on, are straight, and that the air conditioning vent is falling where it's supposed to. And, it's those sight lines. You should never notice anything in a house that stands out unless it's intentional. So, you don't want that. Why is that light switch too low, or why is that? You don't want it to stand out. So there's a comfort zone that people have, and when you respect that comfort zone, it disappears. So those are important things. But probably the biggest challenge is educating people, especially on the first time they build one of our houses, or we get a new project manager, educating them on how all of it goes together. Fortunately, I have such a great team of people that have been with me for so long that, and you're always you keep learning your whole life, but I have this great collection of people that help each other, and, it's a team effort, and we don't have a lot of problems anymore. And we try to be better every time we build a house. So we work hard to do that. But I would say in Florida, you have different issues than if you're building in, say Maine. So, you have to sort of know what the weather's going to be like and what the climate's like. And so designing is certainly site specific. A lot of designers and architects are facade. They they draw a pretty exterior and then force a house behind it. I'll do a great floor plan and then put the face on the floor plan, because how you live in that space and how rooms flow to each other and what the views out the windows are really important to me. So I think that's been one of the successes of our architecture, is that people just love their homes. I've been over the years, I've been the second or third architect for homeowners that, worked with somebody before me. I even had one guy, I was the 7th architect he had hired.
Wow.
So there is, not that we're so great in the sense that, we haven't had, but we do. I think the key is listening. Listen. People tell you what they want. People, I tell this to all my team members. I say, if you're listening, a client will tell you exactly what they need in the first 15 minutes. If you could just sit there and soak in what they're telling you, those are all going to be the most important things in the design. And so listen closely, because they'll tell you everything you need to know, which is interesting.
The exterior is almost a product of the interior in a way, sort of versus, I think, if we look at the average sort of spec home that's out there, the best materials are placed on the front facing, the siding in the back. Nobody really takes too much, care into that. There's not a lot of love given into that. But I think the beauty of, your projects and your portfolio is that you can literally look at them from a 360 angle, from the outdoor perspective, from the exterior, and you get great angles. It's very photogenic no matter where you're looking at it from. What does your general thought process look like when you're looking at a home floor plan and you're looking at the flow of that? How do you prepare to make something that actually flows and that's comfortable for the owner?
Well, fortunately, I've been lucky enough to have like beautiful views or some really amazing opportunities, and oftentimes those are at the rear of the lot. So part of the challenge is always, what's that journey like to get you to the back of the house? What's your experience? So it's, sometimes it's the outside space. It's like, how do you create this sort of progression through a house to get you to where the wow moment is? Or like if you're on an ocean and you have like a skinny lot, but the view's at the back of the lot or something like that. So how do you progress through a house and it becomes a little bit more like an onion unpeeling and you start to get this house? And so every site is different, and every project's different, every program's different. Maybe that's why I just love this so much, because it's like a puzzle. Every project's like a new puzzle, like a new game. And how do I do it better than the last one I ever did? So that's sort of a cool approach. But gosh, I usually my first gut instinct is where I kind of get to, and I think that's where the site will tell you what you need. The client's checklist will tell you what you need. They'll tell you you have everything you need to win the game in the beginning. So it's just you have to listen. That's the biggest thing. You have to have an open mind. You have to open your eyes. You have to, I've designed homes with outside spaces next to multi-story buildings, and it was all about privacy. How do you be outside in your yard and not have a 5-story, 6-story building looking down into your backyard? So, all of those things start to play into the design. So it's not strictly a series of, rooms connected to rooms. You might have a room in a particular location because it's blocking a 5-story building from looking into your garden, into your private sanctuary. So all of those things become really interesting issues. I did a house in 2012. It was for the New American Home for the International Builders Show, and it was over on. It had an apartment building next to it, and it had an alley behind it, and it had obviously had a street in front, and so the challenge was, how do I get some privacy? So I created this house that had a C shape. It was sort of like, sort of the courtyard was in the middle of the house, and I used the back of the house to block the 5-story building from looking into the pool area of the house. And I did some large overhangs and things to really create privacy. And you could be in that house and you would feel like you were anywhere in the world, and you had no clue that there was an apartment building next to you. I mean, it was a nice apartment building, but it was, right there, less than, 50 feet from the rear of the property. Cause, so I always felt like that's what's important, thinking about all of the pluses and minuses and how do you do all of that. So yeah, it's been fun.
The thing that makes what you do uncopyable is what you're talking about right now. It's that passion, that the puzzle solving, understanding of all these intricate nuances that make everything come together for that beautiful outcome. And I guess when you look back over the last few years and you look at these amazing projects that you have in your portfolio, which ones would you say stand out to you as maybe the ones that you're or maybe the one that you're the most proud of, the one that for you is really the sort of the legacy project for you so far?
Well, I think my first modern, which we call Nemo, it was for New Modern, sort of changed my career. That was, I think that was in 2006. That was a big game changer. I would say my first New American Home for the International Builders Show, from the National Association of Home Builders, in 2012 was another game changer. Those two are probably the biggest game changers as far as my career is concerned. Although I have some projects in the works right now that are some of the best we've ever done. We've got some amazing things on the boards that we're doing a house in Pennsylvania that we call the Bridge House, and it's in New Hope, Pennsylvania, on the river there. I forgot the name of the river. It's a famous river. Anyways, and we call it the Bridge House, and it's that all the living's upstairs, and it's just an amazing house, and it's all glass and modern and has a swimming pool, and it's really cool. It's on the boards. I mean, we're still working on it, and then I'm doing a big project over in Tampa that's pretty amazing. That it's not finished yet, but that'll be unbelievable for the portfolio. It's just a beautiful, beautiful home. I'm just proud that I got to do what I got to do. I mean, literally, I changed careers after 9/11, and I'd gone to school to be an architect. My dad was a builder, so it wasn't like outside of my comfort zone. But I'd been in the creative industry, and I had retail stores, and 9/11 kind of said, if I'm ever going to do this change and do my passion, I need to do it now. So I think I was 39 at the time, and I just sort of said I got to do it, and I don't have any regrets. It's just been a wonderful journey. I appreciate every project I get to do. I appreciate every client that trusts me. I mean, it's really been a remarkable journey, and I feel very fortunate that I have this amazing team of people that that could work anywhere, and they want to work here with the rest of us. So, I mean, I think it's really pretty amazing. I don't know why I started that topic. I don't think that's what you asked me. I do go on tangents.
Well, I love it though, Phil. I love it, Phil. This is good. It's good stuff.
We hope you've enjoyed this interview. To learn more about how you could work with the Phil Kean Design Group, visit philkeandesigns.com. philkeandesigns.com.